it really seems that Warhammer is actually having a great time when it comes to video games. We're seeing titles like Vermintide utilizing unique settings, interesting characters, while Total War Warhammer, on the other hand, is making great and bold strides within the strategy genre, combining what we love about Total War and Warhammer together in one fantasy setting. And then you have titles like Space Hulk, one that's really not touched on, especially since Space Hulk is a variant of the Warhammer 40k gameplay that is known in tabletops. It's not something that has been fully explored. Now, the single player campaign we're not going to be touching a whole lot on, especially since it would riddle this entire review with spoilers. To cut things short, you're going to be experiencing a lot of the same things in multiplayer, especially with the fact that you are playing the role of a librarian, who I like to call Gandalf the Lightning Thrower with psychic abilities. However, if Gandalf and Jean Grey had a kid, this is probably the best second option of what the kid could be capable of, and unfortunately, his AI partners aren't exactly the smartest damn tools in the shed, which actually deterred me from playing the campaign in its fullest and just cranking down the difficulty to easy and moving on. Now, when it comes to classes for online multiplayer, you can play Gandalf, the Lightning Thrower, as I like to call him, the Librarian, the Arnold Schwarzenegger's long-lost futuristic cousin, the heavy weapon specialty who loves his big flamethrower, heavy machine guns, and he loves his big-ass plasma cannon. Step aside Doom, there's somebody else in town with a much bigger BFG. Now, you also have the Assault specialty, which is the badass with shield and mace, or shield sword, or double claws. You have the Apothecary, who loves to keep their teammate alive by using a drill to stab them in the back and inject a healing medication for them. You have the Tactical specialty, who can offer team revives based on cooldown, and the Interrogator Chaplain, who just looks like a necromancer dragged through the bones, cloth, and sci-fi setting badassery. Now, each of these classes do offer their own capabilities in combat. Each of them also do come with their own cooldowns, which is where customizations do begin to play extremely important roles, because these customizations do offer a lot more than just aesthetics and or enhancing your appearance. Instead, they do a lot more than just that, which is what we're about to touch on. As you can see here, customizations are big. There's lots of them. Now, Adornment customizations are extremely important because they do come in two types. You have cooldown reducer adornments and effect reducer adornments. Effect reducer adornments do reduce the type of damage that you're going to be taking, such as plasma, thorax, or any other type of damage, including melee or blast. Now, you also have the armor bonuses, which can allow you to reduce damage, increase HP at certain points, or overall just make you a walking badass mobile tank of destruction and badassery. Now, whenever it comes down to said and done, your guns get the same treatment. However, adornments aren't here at play. Instead, you get modules and appearance changers. As you can see here, guns do get a nice little touch up, allowing it to not look so bleak and give you an appearance that you enjoy. The modules aren't just aesthetics, they also increase the capabilities of your gun in combat, whether it's recoil, it's sight, night vision. They all play an important role. Emblems not doing so much outside of, really giving a great aesthetic appeal, which allows it to have that Warhammer feel. You even get clips, which allow you to increase your magazine sizes and makes you effective in combat. You also have these nice little blessings that you can get, your perks, as they call them. Some of them increasing your combat ability, your hacking time to lock doors and make it so that enemies can't follow you through a door. And then you also have banners, which unfortunately they're just cosmetic and they don't offer anything special in combat. It would be nice to see ones that do, say, revive a teammate, or they allow healing over time or something of the sort, including dropping armor packs to enhance your combat capability. Now, whenever missions do get on the way, you do get a chance to pick out your loadout. This includes choosing your class, choosing the weapons you're going to use, including both primary and secondary, so you can choose your melee weapon and you get to choose your primary long-range weapon. Some classes do have different abilities. As you can see here, they all actually do have a different ability. There are 4 levels in total, so if you decide to turn Codex rules off, you have to choose what approach you're going to take into combat, because the Codex off will unfortunately give you more of a MOBA stylish feel, as you will have to kill enemies and level up, and it really drives the difficulty home, and unfortunately that can and cannot be beneficial to your overall experience. Now, let's talk graphics. Now, when it comes to actually doing something right, Streum On Studio has absolutely nailed the atmospherics and the graphics and the design. This game literally looks like somebody grabbed the entire textbook for Warhammer 40k, and I'm not talking just a codex or two. It literally seems like they've grabbed all the concept art ever made, grabbed it, and just chunked it right into a video game. And it really does show, atmospherically and design-wise, this is truly a gothic industrial futuristic setting, and it actually almost wants to make your skin crawl from time to time, whether it's the fact that you're constantly being ambushed by these Genestealers who look actually pretty damn amazing. It looks like somebody took a figurine, grabbed it, scanned it into a game, and just brought it to life, which is probably what happened here, and it's admirable. Now, there are a few drawbacks from this game. There are moments where textures and resolutions can seem almost a little washed out or outdated. You know, whether it's the small bits of blood and rust on your armor, or it's the idea that close up some of the textures kind of pop in and pop out, or some of the fact that this game literally loads as you play. Now, that doesn't take away from the overall experience. Atmospherically, this is a perfect Warhammer 40k setting. Even though some of the game's execution doesn't seem to do it right, this is not something we can actually be mad about. Streum On Studio has done a amazing job, whether it's from the catwalks and this industrial underbelly of the ship, or the loading docks that look like a grandiose cave of spaceships ready to take off, or a cathedral-like setting that does pop up from time to time. You're actually getting a really good look at what a Space Hulk is. You know, it's this giant spaceship built on a castle, a cathedral, or just all sorts of gothic sci-fi settings, and it's actually a wonderful experience. Now, when it does come to, say, frame rates and performance with the graphics, Space Hulk on PS4 does tend to dwindle off and struggle with performance. 60 frames a second is not steady. 30 frames a second is almost seemingly constant, but it doesn't really seem that the developers mind this, especially since it is a co-op experience and not a competitive series to begin with. Now, the big thing with Space Hulk Deathwing is there is a lot of potential for growth. You know, we do have a young game. It does have room to improve upon its graphics and its animations. Now, sound design is something where the game does begin to dwindle off a little bit and struggle a little more. So let's talk about sound and sound design along with its music. And you may be wondering why I say sound design, and music, because all of it does come together. Unlike most games, you're not getting this action shooter that is filled with heavy metal music, which many of us would imagine Warhammer would. Instead, it's very subtle. It's almost ambient, something to fit the ship, something that goes along with this entire horror-like setting. And it's actually unsettling. It's not something where you're going to hear bells chiming, whistles blowing, brass orchestras clinging together. It's nothing like that. It's truly just this low synthesized ambient feeling that kind of brings the whole feel of the game to life. Now, when it does come to gunfire and flamethrowers and plasma cannons, those are on spot. They actually sound just like you would hope they would for a Warhammer title, and it really does drive that feeling home and helps with that level of immersion. Now, there are a few nitpicks here. If you bust a door down, for example, or melee something, the sound does seem low-key. It doesn't sound high quality. You know, it sounds like something out of the PS2 era, which can kind of make some of us grit our teeth and hope that this does get updated in the future, especially since there are classes that focus on melee combat and other classes that focus on their firearms. Now, with that all being said, it doesn't exactly mean that this is a bad decision. After all, you're not going to be bashing a lot of doors in, you're not going to be kicking a lot of faces in and hearing metal against metal, so it's something to consider as a small annoyance that will pop up from time to time, especially for diehard Warhammer fans that are going to be spending a lot of time within Space Hulk, which I certainly already have, having already gone through the campaign, already having busted my way through dozens of multiplayer missions and really taken in the setting. Now, the next thing we do have to talk about is gameplay mechanics. As you can already see, just through the gameplay, there's a lot going on screen, but there's a lot more than just seeing and experiencing. One of the big things is Warhammer 40k's universe is all about coordination and line of sight. As you already know, you do move your figures on the tabletop game so that you're not having friendly fire, you're not firing into your own squad, which is a realistic problem when it comes to the tactical gameplay of the tabletop. This is present in Space Hulk Deathwing. You do have to worry about friendly fire if somebody has turned it on. It is a problem. I have actually eliminated an entire squad on accident with my flamethrower, because you are in these tight corridors, you are shooting over one another's shoulder, and there's always troubles with line of sight, which means scoping in does become a big thing, so you're going to be using your oculum quite a bit. Now, the one thing you do have to worry about with this game, if friendly fire is off, you do still have to worry about line of sight and shooting your teammates in the back, because they do act like a piece of texture within the game setting itself. It's just like shooting at a wall. Your friends will act just like that, and unfortunately it does waste your ammo, and it does waste precious time that could determine life and death for your entire squad. And as you can see here, that is something to worry about, especially in areas where you're creating choke points. You're not wanting the enemies to have this ability to just flood in and swarm your team, which does happen quite often. The Tyranids in this game are extremely aggressive. Even on the lowest difficulties in multiplayer, they are beyond aggressive. They can overwhelm you, and I've had missions more often than not where we fell from being swarmed, and unfortunately it does get a little frustrating, but it brings home that entire essence of what Warhammer 40k really is. It definitely adds that tactical level to the game itself. Now, when it does come to gameplay mechanics, abilities are somewhat of an annoyance to know how to use and use them properly. Abilities do have to be rotated in and out because that can determine life and death, and unfortunately some classes do have extremely long cooldowns compared to others. The Interrogator himself often sees abilities having between 60 and 120 and 180 second cooldowns depending on the ability used. Now the 180 could be an over-exaggeration, and it could be just 160 or 120. Now this does become a problem when you're trying to trigger abilities like your triangle circle on PS4 or your Y and B on an Xbox controller via PC if you're using a controller on PC. Sometimes you accidentally activate your circle or B ability, which does become a really big problem in those moments where you don't want to use both your abilities and send them both on cooldown, because again, that does determine situations between life and death, and unfortunately could result in a mission fail. And I'm pretty sure you and your friends, after say a 45-minute mission, really don't want to see that pop up on screen. But it does happen, and unfortunately it is a reality with this game. Now for our conclusion of our review for Space Hulk Deathwing Enhanced Edition. Is it going to be a buy? Is it going to be a rent? Is it going to be a bargain bin, or just a hard pass altogether? Even with room for improvement, Space Hulk Deathwing Enhanced Edition is a perfect representation of what Warhammer 40k has longed for when it comes to video games. Its cooperative action is perfectly well done. It even draws in perfect experiences of what Space Hulk would be like if it was a co-op title in corridor shooting. With all that being said, Space Hulk Deathwing Enhanced Edition does have a lot of room for improvement. Sound design itself could use a small touch-up on it, especially when it comes to metal on metal when breaking doors. The netcode itself is beyond problematic. Disconnects are quite frequent, but so are the intolerable lag spikes, which do appear more often than not. Pop-in textures do cause the game to act like it's locking up for just a few seconds, but that few seconds can determine life and death and having to restart a mission. For the time being, Streum On Studio does have a lot of work cut out for them, but likely for them, this game is a buy and or a bargain, especially if you can find a good deal on it. But at $39.99, it's hard to actually say don't buy the game. So with this conclusion, we're going to say buy. We hope all of you enjoyed our review for Space Hulk Deathwing Enhanced Edition here at Blast Away the Game Review. Again, I'm your host, Dustin Murphy. Stay tuned to our website where David Daly will have a review for the game in text format with a score from 1 to 10. We hope to see you all soon.
Hey, what's up, my dude?
Brothers, follow me.
Oh, it's fine. I just shut the stream down early since it didn't show up. That's all good. I'm capturing footage anyways for the review. Oh. Oh, meatloaf. Oh shit.